The sense organ ear explained like never before. Welcome to Biomed Explorer. In this video, I'd like to talk about the human ear. I'll discuss what the ear actually is, how a single sound wave travels from the moment it reaches your head to the moment your brain understands it, the three separate chambers that make this possible, the hidden system inside your ear that has nothing to do with hearing at all, what happens when something goes wrong, and the daily habits quietly damaging this organ without you ever noticing. So let's get started. What is the ear? Most people know their ears let them hear. They know covering them muffles sound, and they know a loud enough noise can hurt. But very few people actually understand how this small, intricate structure manages to take invisible vibrations in the air and turn them into music, speech, and warning signals, all while also quietly keeping you upright and balanced. So what exactly is it? The ear is a compact but remarkably complex organ built around two very different jobs packed into one small space, converting sound waves into information your brain can use and tracking the position and movement of your own head in space. Most of what makes this possible isn't even visible from the outside. The part you can see and touch, the fleshy outer flap, is only the entrance to a system that burrows deep into your skull through air-filled chambers, fluid-filled canals, and one of the hardest, densest bones in your entire body. Its entire purpose is to take raw sound, nothing more than air molecules vibrating back and forth, and turn it into pitch, tone, rhythm, and direction, all within milliseconds. Without this system working properly, the world wouldn't just go quiet. You'd also lose one of your body's main tools for staying balanced and upright. How does a single sound wave travel through the ear? Now let's talk about where hearing actually starts. And here's something that surprises a lot of people. The process doesn't begin with your brain interpreting a sound. It begins with something far simpler, air itself physically shaking. When a sound is made, say someone speaking across a room, the vibrating air travels outward as a wave and eventually reaches the part of your ear you can actually see called the pinna. This curved, folded flap of cartilage isn't just decorative. Its ridges and grooves are shaped specifically to catch sound waves and funnel them inward, while also subtly helping your brain figure out whether a sound came from above, below, in front, or behind you. From there, sound travels down the ear canal, a narrow tube about an inch long until it reaches a thin, tightly stretched membrane called the eardrum or tympanic membrane. This structure is remarkably sensitive, capable of detecting vibrations smaller than the width of a single hydrogen atom. When sound waves strike it, the eardrum vibrates back and forth in perfect sync with the incoming sound, a bit like a drumhead responding to every single beat, no matter how faint. Once the eardrum vibrates, it sets off a chain reaction in the next chamber of the ear, one that involves the three smallest bones in the entire human body. The middle ear, three tiny bones with a big job. Just behind the eardrum sits the middle ear, a small air-filled cavity containing three impossibly tiny bones nicknamed the hammer, anvil, and stirrup for their distinctive shapes. Together, they form the smallest connected chain of bones in the human skeleton, and their job is surprisingly clever. Sound arrives as vibrations in air, but the next stop on its journey is filled with fluid instead. And fluid is much harder to vibrate than air, a bit like the difference between shouting across a room versus shouting underwater. Without help, most of that sound energy would simply bounce off the fluid and get lost. So these three tiny bones act as a mechanical amplifier, taking the vibration from the eardrum and concentrating that same amount of energy onto a much smaller surface, the oval window, dramatically boosting the pressure of the vibration in the process. It's an elegant workaround, solving a physics problem most people never even realize exists. This same chamber also connects to the back of your throat through a narrow passage called the eustachian tube, which is why your ears sometimes pop on an airplane or while driving up a mountain. That popping sensation is simply the tube equalizing air pressure on both sides of the eardrum, keeping it free to vibrate properly. The inner ear where vibration becomes sound. Past the three tiny bones lies the inner ear, and this is where things get genuinely remarkable. Curled up like a snail shell is a fluid-filled structure called the cochlea, and inside it lies a thin strip called the basilar membrane, lined with roughly 16,000 specialized hair cells. When vibrations pass into the cochlea's fluid, they create ripples along this membrane, and different parts of it respond to different pitches. High-pitched sounds trigger hair cells near the entrance, while low-pitched sounds ripple further down toward the tip, a bit like piano keys arranged along a spiral, each one tuned to a specific note. As these tiny hair cells bend in response to the vibration, they convert that physical movement into an electrical signal, the same basic currency your entire nervous system runs on. These signals gather into the auditory nerve, which carries them to the brainstem and eventually up to the auditory cortex, a region on the side of the brain responsible for piecing pitch, volume, and timing back together into something recognizable, a voice, a melody, a warning siren. And remarkably, this entire process, from vibrating air to a fully interpreted sound, happens in a fraction of a second. The hidden balance system. Here's a detail that catches almost everyone off guard. Sitting right next to the cochlea, sharing the same fluid-filled space, is a completely separate system that has nothing to do with hearing at all. It's called the vestibular system, and its entire job is tracking balance and movement. This system consists of 3 tiny fluid-filled loops called the semicircular canals, each oriented in a different direction, along with 2 small pouches that detect straight-line motion and gravity. Whenever you tilt your head, spin around, or nod up and down, fluid inside these canals shifts and bends more tiny hair cells, sending signals to your brain about exactly how your head is moving through space. Your brain combines this information with what your eyes see and what pressure sensors in your feet detect, cross-referencing all 3 constantly to keep you balanced. This is also exactly why spinning in circles and then stopping suddenly makes the room feel like it's still spinning. The fluid inside your semicircular canals keeps moving briefly even after your body has stopped, sending your brain a signal that doesn't match what your eyes are seeing, and that mismatch is what you experience as dizziness. How the ears pinpoint direction. One ear can technically hear, but 2 working together create something a single ear never could, the ability to locate exactly where a sound is coming from. Because your ears sit on opposite sides of your head, a sound coming from your left reaches your left ear a tiny fraction of a second before it reaches your right ear, and it arrives very slightly louder on that side too. Your brain compares these tiny differences in timing and volume between both ears and uses them to calculate the direction a sound came from almost instantly. It's part of why a sound coming from directly in front of or behind you can sometimes be harder to locate. Both ears receive it at almost exactly the same time, giving your brain less of a gap to work with. When the system breaks down, given how many delicate parts are involved, it's no surprise that hearing and balance problems are extremely common. Conductive hearing loss happens when something blocks sound from properly reaching the inner ear, often from earwax buildup, fluid, or damage to the eardrum or tiny middle ear bones, similar to a speaker being muffled by something physically in the way. Sensorineural hearing loss is different and often permanent. It happens when the delicate hair cells inside the cochlea become damaged, most commonly from prolonged exposure to loud noise. Unlike many other cells in the body, these hair cells don't regenerate once they're gone, which is part of why hearing loss from loud concerts, headphones, or machinery tends to accumulate quietly over years before it's ever noticed. Tinnitus, a persistent ringing or buzzing with no external source, often develops alongside this kind of damage, believed to be the brain's own misfiring response to a loss of normal signal input. Vertigo, a false sensation of spinning or movement, usually points to a problem within the vestibular system itself, sometimes caused by tiny calcium crystals that have shifted out of place inside the balance canals. And ear infections, especially common in children, occur when the eustachian tube becomes blocked or swollen, trapping fluid in the middle ear where bacteria can multiply. Even simple daily habits take a toll. Listening to music at high volume through headphones for extended periods is one of the most common preventable causes of hearing damage today, which is part of why hearing specialists so often recommend the 60-60 rule. keeping volume below 60% and limiting listening sessions to 60 minutes at a time, giving those irreplaceable hair cells a genuine chance to recover. The three main jobs of the ear. So now that we've covered all of the parts, let's bring it together. The ear has three main jobs it performs every single moment it's active. The first job is sound capture and amplification. The outer ear funnels sound inward, the eardrum converts it into vibration, and the three tiny middle ear bones amplify that vibration enough to cross into fluid. The second job is conversion. Inside the cochlea, thousands of tiny hair cells transform physical vibration into electrical signals, encoding pitch, volume, and timing before the information ever leaves the ear. The third job, running constantly in parallel, is balance. The vestibular system tracks the position and movement of your head at all times, feeding that information to your brain alongside everything your eyes and body are reporting, wrapping it up. There you have it. The human ear, a compact system of cartilage, tiny bones, fluid-filled canals, and thousands of microscopic hair cells working every second to turn invisible vibrations in the air into the sounds that fill your world. It funnels sound through a folded outer flap, amplifies it across the three smallest bones in your body, converts it into electrical signals using a spiral-shaped chamber tuned like a piano, and simultaneously runs an entirely separate system dedicated to keeping you balanced and upright. Along the way, it compares tiny differences between both ears to tell you exactly where a sound came from, and quietly does all of this without a single moment of downtime. The ear may be something you rarely think about beyond turning up the volume on your headphones, but with every single sound you hear, it's converting invisible air vibrations into the rich, detailed world of sound you experience without a moment of delay. Thanks for watching, and Biomed Explorer uploads a new science video every day. Please subscribe and share.